Reality check inside America's Next Top Model was a soft launch for America's Next Top Model Cycle 25, and I don't know how to feel about it.
Only apply that. Get it, don't be timid when you ain't apply that. Love a bone, give along, leave it. I don't want no trip, baby, spend like
My name is Ashley, and this is My Sweet Perspective, where I give my take on all things TV and movie related, and I am here to put you on, okay? You guys, welcome back to the channel. We are back to talk all the things reality check inside America's Next Top Model, the 3-episode docuseries that premiered on Netflix just Monday. And I have lots of thoughts, and we're going to chop it up. We're going to get into some of the interviews with some of the ladies who participated in the cycle. We are going to get into Tyra and her avoidance of responsibility. And we'll also get into the Jays who ultimately, in my opinion, after watching this, Tyra treated more like accessories than as friends. So we're going to chop it up. We're going to get into all of the things. So come on. And we're going to start episode by episode. We'll pursue it that way. Again, be sure to comment, subscribe, hit the hype, drop your comments in the chat below. Let me know how you felt about it. Did you get a lot out of this? I don't know. Also, I want to throw this out there. Apparently will be releasing a real America's Next Top Model documentary in the month of March. So stay tuned for that because I'll be back to talk about that as well. But episode 1 on top, we get the framing of everything America's Next Top Model was. Now, I was a true blue day one America's Next Top Model stan. Now, I only watched maybe the first 5 or 6 cycles because after that, I think it kind of got redundant and got really strange. But I remember some of these episodes, they were yesterday. When I was watching the documentary, I'm literally flashing back, right? So the cultural significance was huge at the time. We definitely got into what we imagine to be the modeling industry. We got into these young ladies' lives. We were rooting for people. And again, this is of the era when American Idol first came out. And so we were already in the frame of mind as it relates to reality competition types of shows. And so it just leaned on that. Now, what I will say and what it felt like in the time was that this was revolutionary. This was giving girls who were brown and who were black and who were not a size 0 the opportunity to be seen and to create a lane for themselves, right? In hindsight, was that really what was happening? Maybe not. After watching this and hearing a lot of the girls' stories, it wasn't, I never thought it was going to be a guarantee of a future, even if you have got talent, right? We knew that, but I really would think, especially the winners, they would have really experienced some kind of success. But we find out later that the reputation, being affiliated, really almost blackballed some of these young ladies in their pursuits of modeling. Again, I really, before this documentary, wanted to believe that Tyra Banks had the best of intentions and that she went above and beyond for these girls. And after watching the way she's handled the pushback, the way she's handled a lot of it, I don't know if I can sit on that fence anymore. Did it open doors and did it put our eyes on certain people? Absolutely. Were there success stories in spite of? Absolutely. Like you can think of Eva Marcel, we can think of Takara, we can think of Yaya DaCosta, all who have made their own way and charted their own lane. But was it because of, or was it in spite of, right? So again, we get the former contestants in episode 1, and they're just starting to break down what happened, right? How it turned in from this competition show that really felt like it was going somewhere to full on exploitation. I believe we start with Ebony, who was our brown skin beauty honey from New York, who was there, who I loved her backstory with her grandmother in the beauty salon and having people come in there and tell her she's black and she's beautiful. I loved everything about that, but getting here and immediately being different and just beautiful. But Tyra calling her on the phone to talk about she was ashy. Not that they botched this haircut because they couldn't get people that look like us to even do the hair then. And of course, we just get a lot of different stories and a lot of different commentary around the pressures that were placed on the girls to change their smiles, to change their hair, to change their teeth, to do all of these things to become palatable. And then in later seasons, literally have you do the opposite with other girls. So while there was this idea and this push that no, I'm shifting the narrative and I'm changing it, was it really changing or were you reinforcing what was already there, right? Again, we found out that it became, again, less about a competition and really seeing these young ladies move forward to more of a storyline. And what kind of narrative can we craft with the girls that are here? We need to keep this girl here longer so that we can get this narrative out. And again, like I said, full on exploitation at one point, the pushes, the nudges, in the confessionals, all of those things. Now we're getting into it, and then we talk about Giselle. Now, Giselle was a young lady, I believe she was from the West Coast, a Latina girl who came on and really talked about how they talked about her wide behind, and now from here on out, that's what she's always thought of. She thought she was going to get deals because she was on a billboard, and that didn't pan out for her. And a lot of these women, you can tell, still carry a lot of this with them. A lot of, I think, the critique, or if you can call it a critique, a lot of the negative feedback that they were given, they carry it with them to this day. But what I thought was interesting, as Giselle was telling her story, we do a flashback and she's giving microaggressions. So again, a lot of it was the show and reality of the time, but people are still going to be people in these spaces. And it's very interesting to look at it with a 26 lens and say, oh gosh, that was awful, that was terrible. But also knowing that that's what it was back then. And what are they going to do about it now? When honestly, in my opinion, looking at Hollywood today, looking at the models of today, this is being perpetuated now, even still, maybe even worse. But that's just me. So eventually the Jays come on and we get to see Mr. J, and he begins to talk about how he and Tyra were besties, how they would stay the night over each other's house, they would come up with concepts for the show, and that for the first several seasons, this was the vibe. They loved each other on, they loved each other off. He had done her makeup for years before. And also, I just found out that Mr. J wasn't Latino. That man's from South Africa. I had no, his parents are from South Africa. I had no idea. I thought he was Latino this whole entire time. And so he's really talking about the bond they had and how really he never thought that there would be a day that they didn't talk or come to that point. And we also see Miss J. And Miss J immediately, I was asking in the Discord because we watched this together, I was like, has he suffered a medical injury, some sort of condition? And of course, that's revealed later on. But this is looking back, like I said, with a 2026 lens is easy. What's scary is, like I said, I think a lot of this stuff is still going on present day. Now, episode 2, still in the running, we get into the ratings and the storylines of it all. And what stood out in episode 2 for me probably was Shandy's story about Milan and the events that happened there. If you remember Shandy, you know that she was all alone in this world. She had her boyfriend back home. She didn't know who she was, right? It was like this kind of mousy girl, I want to say. She was in my own little corner, in my own little chair, and we saw her blossom, right? She had some of the most beautiful pictures, some of the most beautiful shoots, just a gorgeous girl, but didn't really have a ton of family support. All she had was her boyfriend. Now, I remember this in real time, and I'm going to tell you how it was framed in real time. And guys, if you are a part of the collective Discord, don't worry, we're going to go back and watch her cycle, because I need to make sure in my mind how this was presented, because I remember distinctly. I remember her crying on the phone. I remember the hot tub. I remember everything. So basically, how it is framed for the audience is that Shandy was this good girl. Again, all she had was her man at home. They had this fabulous shoot in Milan and they were unwinding. They did some of the male models over from the shoot and they were in the hot tub and they were taking it to the face. Drink party, let's all get wasted. Betty shot o'clock. That's what it was giving. And so they were partying and she hooked up with this guy. And I don't remember seeing the whole scene, but it was enough for us to know that they had smashed, right? And the next day, she felt so guilty because what did I do? Oh my God, I slept with someone. I cheated on my boyfriend. And we got the whole phone call with the boyfriend. You stupid B, how could you? I loved you. X, Y, or Z. That's how it was presented, that she was upset because she cheated on her boyfriend and she regretted it. That's how it was framed. That's how it was shown. Now, in this documentary, it comes out that no, she was blackout drunk. She was unable to give consent. That man violated her. They filmed everything. And then to add insult to injury, after it was all said and done, years later, Tyra on her talk show invites all the girls on, and Shandy comes on. And before, Shandy asked, "Don't play that footage. I don't want to see it. It was traumatic, X, Y, or Z." And Tyra proceeds to play the footage on camera and have her. So again, two different things. And again, we know production. We know what they can do, but it's just such a different story than what we actually saw as the viewers. Drop it in the comments if you remember how that was painted, how it was. She did say that they tried to make it work afterwards, but she was being walked up to on the street, called a whore, these things. Again, it gave you slept with this man and it was regret at the time. Now that's a crime. And I'm really curious as to whether or not we ever pursued charges, whether that be from production or her, because y'all are culpable and liable for that. And it was recorded. So I'm really curious about the legality of it. And if any of you guys are lawyers, I would be very interested to know if she has any rights at this point after the fact. I'm very interested, but that was again initial harm and violence and then secondary harm. And when Tyra's asked about it in the documentary, oh, I remember that. Again, sorry. That's violent, in my opinion. You just don't do that. Now, this is harm. Again, cheated versus being violated. Those are two big things. And paint a person in a certain light in the public eye, which can be debilitating. And once your good reputation is lost, honey, as Mr. Darcy said, it's gone forever, right? For some. So we have to keep that in mind. Now, Keena. Now, that was a situation on camera and off camera that was wrong as hell, but she is back to tell her story, and she revisits the South Africa shoot with that obnoxious, violent, damn male model who couldn't keep himself. And again, she tried to be cute. She tried to be like, no, I'm good, whatever. We get into the shoot and he's groping her, touching her. And so she says, what would Tyra do in this moment? Tyra would stop the shoot respectfully, say she was uncomfortable, and then do this. She tries to do it, and they look at her like, Mr. J included, everybody there. Oh, what's wrong? What's the problem? Never any action taken. We get to the judges panel and she explains it. And not so long after is eliminated from the competition. And it was like, well, damn, I took all the steps. I thought if I would have told you guys about this model, you would have corrected it. But alas, no. Keena said something, got looked at crazy, and they punished her, in my opinion. Now, the medical members, again, choices were made. Danielle said she did not want her gap closed and they were not going to rest until it was closed. Or again, did she make the choice? Yeah, but was there immense pressure? Absolutely. And I don't think they regret it. And what was crazy about that story is the fact that years later, a Caucasian girl is on the show and they love her gap and they want to widen her gap. And she's like, but y'all did all this to close mine. We have another story about a girl whose mom was injured in blicky violence, and they do a crime scene photo shoot and have her shot in the head. It was just very exploitative. Ken ultimately does take responsibility for that shoot, but ultimately it still wasn't enough accountability in my opinion. It was very much all throughout that now we know better, we do better, but back then we didn't know better and we didn't do better. From the black face of it all to the animal shoots to all of those things, it was just very cringy and disturbing ultimately. Now, as far as episode 3, we get into the full fallout of it and the commercial. Because all of this, unbeknownst to me, was just a commercial for Cycle 25 for Tyra. The legacy gets relitigated, of course, and we go through all of the things. But also, we get deeper into Jay and Miss J and Nigel, right? So initially, I think not after 9 or 10 seasons, Mr. J's like, I don't like the direction of the show. I don't like where it's going. I am ready to leave. And he gets the courage to let Tyra know. He sends her an email and she responds back 3 words. He says, I am disappointed. And that's it. And won't talk to him outside of filming. He's like, I tried to contact her. She would not respond to me. But when we're on set and on camera, she's talking to me, but it was very much, I'll talk to you here, I will not talk to you in real life. He continues to stay on for many years after that in his capacity. And then because of the network, there's a change in ownership, and she says that they want a new flair. I got a flair, mama. I want a new flair. And so they want the Jays gone and Nigel gone. Mind you, Nigel was brought in as the white talent. We need some white eye candy over here. And now, after 100 years on the show, all of y'all got to go all at once. And they said that she didn't call them. She ain't talked to them. They basically found out on air, an interview, that Tyra had fired them. Right. And then you saw the later seasons of America's Next Top Model, and it went completely off the rafters. Very weird, very strange, just like her and that hot ice cream. Very weird. And so we hear the story. And of course, Mr. J is very hurt because he felt like that was his best friend. He would have done anything for her. He was trying to ride for her with Janice when she was on the show and all of those things. And then just to be forgotten and not looked to ever again. And Tyra's asked about it during this documentary. And she basically is like, I don't want to talk about that. I need to call him. Oh, you ain't called him in 100 years. You're never going to call him. Then we get Miss J, who was faithful to the end on the show, living their best life. And we find out that Miss J has had a stroke, can't walk anymore, had to talk again. And of course, Nigel and Mr. J come to see, but Tyra sent a text message talking about, I want to visit. Mind you, while they're coming to do the documentary. Oh, you ain't hopped on a jet to come see about me? After all these years? And Miss J says, he said, no. And so we find out that, of course, after the show, they had both rebounded pretty well, as well as Nigel. Nigel had done Taylor Swift's book, had filmed everything for that, or photographed everything for that. We find out that Miss J was doing all of the iterations of America's Next Top Model all around the world, and that Mr. J was really an online personality anyway, so he started doing more TV and things like that. Did a beauty brand, wrote a novel, all of the things. So really thriving after the fact. And then we find out that Tyra got fired from her own show eventually. And they had a whole different host. And so now there are no sacred cows. How could I tell my friends that they weren't going to be there anymore? And then it was me on the chopping block. I was gone, girl. Now, again, she rolls out that they're going to be doing a cycle 25. And what's that going to look like? I don't know. Who's going to watch it? I don't know. I'm not watching it. I'll see what the reviews say about it, but I'm not going to watch it. Now, I will say people do enjoy a spectacle. They do enjoy the worst of us. And so I think there'll be an initial bubble. I don't think it'll be sustained long term. I think there's just been too much harm, too much damage caused over the years, and not enough accountability. What I am interested in is this documentary, if they're really going to get into the nitty gritty, because although I do feel like people got to get on here and tell their truths, I feel like Tyra copped out the entire time. I do not feel like she really owned any of it. Was it all her fault? Not 100%, but you were the face of this. You were a Black woman, a marginalized, part of a marginalized community that further helped to marginalize other marginalized communities, ultimately. I feel like she treated her friends like accessories and not real people. I don't know how you have a heart and don't reach out to your friend after you find out they had a stroke. I don't know how you don't reach out to your friends and let them know the situation after you've worked with them for 100 years. I don't know how you talk to your friend when they make a choice for their life and you don't agree with it and you just stop talking to them completely. These are the things I don't under. But again, it's just sad. And then the one young lady, was it Danielle, who won her cycle and ultimately got signed to Ford Models and was never sent on a casting? And Tyra basically said, I knew that was going to happen. But I always rode the fence with you, so I didn't really do anything. How dare you, ho. Anyway, that was it, you guys. We will be live to discuss this, so make sure you tune in for that. But again, this was Reality Check Inside America's Next Top Model, the 3-part docuseries that is on Netflix. So go watch it. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all of the things for your girl. Hype me up, and I will see y'all in the next video. Thanks for watching.